All right, good morning. And we are on our last social studies lesson, number 3 for the judicial branch. And so let's review what you learned in the two videos yesterday. One told you about what the judicial branch does, and the other one gave you a special look inside the Supreme Court building because the public isn't allowed to go and visit that. If you go to Washington, D.C., and visit all the buildings, you're not allowed to go in that one. So it was kind of fun to find a video that you could watch. So the judicial branch is made up of the Supreme Court. And there's the Supreme Court building from the outside located in Washington, D.C. And it is made up of 9 judges, one of which is called your Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And this is ours right now, and they are selected from amongst the other Supreme Court judges. They vote on who that is. He is our 17th Chief Justice because a Supreme Court justice serves for life. So once they're elected, they're there for a long time. So we haven't had that many Supreme Court justices or Chief Justices. And then here is a picture of the chamber, which you saw in the video. 9 justices serve on the Supreme Court. They are chosen by our president and then approved by the Senate. So he usually nominates somebody and then they question them and vote to decide if they'll do a good job. The responsibilities of the Supreme Court, as you guys learned in your video yesterday, is they inspect or study the laws made by the legislative branch, and they answer questions for lawmakers when about the Constitution is unclear about a law. So they're making sure that the laws that are passed by the legislative branch or signed by the president actually follow the Constitution and don't take away our rights as American citizens. So a law has to go through a lot of different channels before it becomes a law, and that's so we don't have bad ones. Now, the other thing they do is when they do hear cases, they do hear court cases. So when cases are brought to the court, the justices decide if the laws have been used fairly. So any law that gets to the Supreme Court generally has something to do with the Constitution. And they're deciding whether or not this person was treated in a way that matches with their constitutional rights. So they don't hear murder cases like we think of going to the law. They might hear right now they're hearing a lot of things about discrimination against religion. They're looking seriously at some of our abortion laws and whether or not they are actually constitutional. School funding laws. There's a lot of those kinds of things they're looking at right now. So we need to finish this out, the judicial branch. So everybody find this paper. And we're going to fill it out. So the first question says, who is the leader of the judicial branch? The Chief Justice. Chief Justice, if you want to write that down. And number 2, where is the judicial branch located? In the Supreme Court building, which is in Washington, D.C. And then number 3, what is the main job of the judicial branch? And that is to study the laws and answer questions about those laws. Okay, if you want to get those written down. I'm going to go on. You could always pause the video. Number 4, how is a Supreme Court justice chosen? The president chooses them, and then the Senate must approve them. And how long do Supreme Court justices serve? For their lifetime. They can retire, but most don't. They're there until they die. Explain what it means when a law is declared unconstitutional. That means that the law does not follow the rights given to American citizens as laid forth in the Constitution. So in some way, that law takes away the rights given to you and me by our founding fathers in the Constitution and the amendments that were given to them, and therefore to us. So that's when it's declared unconstitutional. And if it is declared unconstitutional, then it can no longer be a law. It has to be thrown out, because we can't have any laws in the United States, whether they be federal laws, state laws, city laws, county laws, or regulations that take away from the rights set forth in the Constitution. So when I said that they also listen to court cases, a lot of times what they're listening to are objections to state laws that were brought up in the states. Each state has its own Supreme Court, and they couldn't make a decision, or it was appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. But a lot of what they hear are state laws that aren't always following the rights of the Constitution, which they have to. So that is the end of our Social Studies Government unit, and all three of those papers at the Executive Branch, Legislative Branch, and Judicial Branch need to be turned in Friday if you haven't already. I have a whole bunch of them, so I know most of you have. I also check to see, I also check off your work from looking at Seesaw, so make sure you get that done. Not as much to do this week. Make sure you are getting all of your stuff caught up so the last stuff can be turned in on Friday, and I can get it checked off so I know what to do for your grades. All right, see you later.